Welcome back to Market Talk with Broadwater-Toole Realty. It has been a while, but we are back and we will stay on schedule. So you'll get 8 episodes in this one, and then I'll take a little hiatus and work on some other things and come back with some more Market Talk with Broadwater-Toole Realty. But I hope you enjoyed this episode because I'm so excited to have Diane Johnson here from the Augusta Regional Airport. So I'm going to give her a moment to introduce herself. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. I certainly appreciate the offer to come out and speak about the airport. I love talking about our airport. I think it's a wonderful asset to the community. So always happy to get out there and talk about it.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? How did you end up here?
So I always wanted to be in aviation from the time that I was a little girl, and my parents discouraged it because back in the day it wasn't really a strong female occupation, and so they felt like it wouldn't be a good thing to try and get into. So I didn't get into it until late in life. Decided I wanted to learn how to fly, and took some flying lessons and started working for the company where I was taking the flying lessons. And so just continued in that vein. Ended up going back to school later to get a degree in airport management, and so that was really what my start was. But I just am very passionate about getting out and making sure that folks that have never thought about aviation as a career have that opportunity, by someone coming out and introducing the subject and encouraging, because it is a very exciting field, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity for just about anybody that wants to get into the field.
Is it still male dominated?
Oh, definitely more male than female, but we're starting to see the change. And typically where I used to be the only woman in the room, now there's 2 or 3 other women in the room, and so it's exciting to see that as well.
So your role is Director of Innovation and Business Development.
Yes.
That sounds like a big role. So at the Augusta Regional Airport, what does that mean? What are your daily tasks? What do you oversee?
So at a small airport, you get the opportunity to wear a lot of different hats. Every airport it's almost like a small city. You have the airport director has all of these responsibilities that you wouldn't normally associate with, but we have a little bit of everything. So, business development, environmental, maintenance and facilities, governmental stuff, procurement. So it's a little bit of everything. And we are a department of Augusta Richmond County, so we're not separate. And so what that also means is we do not get any general fund tax dollars. So all of the improvements and the day-to-day maintenance activities and that type of thing has to come from the revenues that we generate. And so we all, as I said, have a lot of different responsibilities. So for me personally, I meet with the airlines to try to encourage new service or to talk to them about the current service. I do business development, so I meet with companies that may be interested in building something on the airport, or I go out and try to encourage folks to come to the airport if there's a need for something. And one of the things that we've been working on lately is some of the new aerospace technologies that are coming out. So aviation was kind of, it hasn't seen a lot of change over the years. So obviously when the Wright brothers first started flying and stuff, and then the next big thing was when they created the jet engine, and so you could get someplace very quickly. And then since then, it's been small changes, improvements and things like that. But right now, so we now have drones, so unmanned aerial systems. We're getting into new types of aircraft that are fueled with electricity or hydrogen or something like that. So you're going to start to see, I think, aviation really go in a different direction. So it's exciting for us. It is very different.
Interesting, because there's two airlines that fly in and out of Augusta, right? That's American and Delta.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any plans to expand that, or are we just not equipped to?
So, no, we're happy to have additional airlines, and again, that's one of my responsibilities. The challenge is that it's a very cost-intensive operation for an airline. So they have to have the aircraft, they have to have the crew, they have to have people in your community that can work the flights. They have to be able to overcome that loyalty factor. So when I first got here, a good example of that was that Delta had about 75% of our traffic, and at the time it was US Airways. They've since merged with American and they've taken the American name. But so that's a challenge. When you have one airline that is so strong in your community, another airline that comes in has to say, okay, this is a small community. I need to be able to make a living there. I need to be able to attract people onto my airline and fly my aircraft. But they're already loyal to Delta. They've got the Delta frequent flyer miles and they're used to flying on Delta. And so you have to be able to show them that they could be successful here. So American Airlines has come on, and back in the day, we've seen a lot of consolidations, but back in the day when we had Delta and US Airways, I was able to bring American into our market to a Dallas hub.
Okay.
So, and they were successful. They did end up, when they went into bankruptcy and they relinquished a lot of their aircraft, they gave up our market. But then because they merged with US Airways, we've seen them come back in.
Okay.
But they've had a very strong push to increase their market share. And so they've given us Washington, D.C. service, nonstop service, and they've given us Dallas nonstop service. So we have 4 markets, and they're all very large hubs. So even though you may not be able to get a direct flight to whatever small airport or city that you want to go to, you're able to do that with one connection by going into Atlanta, to Charlotte, to Dallas, or to Washington, and go on from there. So it's very convenient.
That's interesting, because I didn't understand that's how that worked. I thought that you could go pretty much from anywhere from that hub, but now we have to do connections. So I wondered, when you had the direct flight to Washington, I was like, why don't we have more direct flights? Is it because you're not a large enough airport, but it's more so about the airline and where they want to connect?
Right. And if you think about it, for them it's easier. So I've been talking to Delta since I've been here for 20 years about possibly getting other service, getting an additional hub city from them. And they're like, well, we're happy with you coming into Atlanta. We need you to feed Atlanta because we've got all these aircraft going in from all of these other cities. And what we really want is for your community to go into Atlanta and go out from there, because it's more cost effective for them.
So just so I understand, for Delta, there are no direct flights except to Atlanta or Charlotte.
Correct. Atlanta only.
Atlanta only.
Yep.
So
and American goes into Charlotte, to Dallas, and to Washington, D.C.
Okay, so American doesn't go into Atlanta then?
It does not from our city.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Because I was looking for some flights the other day, and when I was looking for flights to Vegas. I know. Because
good city to go to, and that's one of our most popular markets out of our city.
Yeah, and when I try to do 4, I look at Columbia, I look at Charlotte, I look at Atlanta and Augusta. A direct flight from Atlanta to Vegas costs more than a connector from Georgia to Atlanta to Vegas. To me, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense to me either, but the airlines have these, computer systems, and I've never really understood their pricing. I mean, when you think about it, they have to have a station in our market. They've got to have employees in that station. They've got that extra leg, so I don't understand how they work it either.
Right.
But in their algorithms,
It works
for them, and they know exactly how to do it and why they do it.
So when American Airlines made the decision to fly out of Augusta, what did that mean for the Augusta airport? Did you have to build something for them to fly into, or what does that look like?
Sometimes you do. In our case, that was not the reality. Our airport had expansion capabilities already, so we had extra space for them to operate out of. What we did do when American came in and we still had Delta and US Airways, we agreed, because they were only going to operate 2 flights a day. One of them was going to be in the morning and the other one was going to be in the late afternoon, early evening. So what that means is they've got to hire people to come in and operate those flights. So they've got to pay them, and yet they're only using them part-time. And so, because your flight, when you're staffing your flight, it's about a 3-hour window there.
Right.
So they had to figure out a way. So what we did was we offered to do the ground handling for them. So we did the counter service. We'd take the tickets and things. We'd load folks onto the aircraft. We'd handle the baggage for them, which the airport normally doesn't do. That's all on the airlines.
Gotcha.
So, and that's something too. We get a lot of calls all the time. You lost my bag. Well, no, we didn't really. The airline lost your bag. Airport's not allowed to touch them. So it's one of those things that's always a learning experience. When we see things like that, when we see struggling on the part of one of the airlines, our first inclination is always, we can help. We've done that before. We know how to handle bags and stuff. We do it with our charters and things. But the airlines typically don't allow that, because it's their responsibility for the bags, it's their responsibility for the customers. Now with American that time, we had a special contract with them, and it was all spelled out what we could do, what we couldn't do. We had to have our staff go through a huge amount of training and recurrent training. They had to do so many hours a month of training and stuff. So it was very intensive for our staff members.
And that's good. What did we miss though?
I just pick up where you were, and then we can connect them later.
Okay. Okay. I want to circle back just a little bit, because we've talked about a lot. And I guess my mind is to the place, where do you get the knowledge to move into the role you're in? So you went to college, you worked at an airline.
No, I never worked at an airline.
Okay.
I worked at an FBO, fixed base operator, where they did flight training, aircraft maintenance, that type of thing. So that was how I started.
Okay.
But a lot of folks just decide they want to be in aviation. They go to college for it. But I've learned, and this is probably true of every profession in the world, is you get out of school and you have book knowledge, but you don't know anything about what it's like in the real world and how to deal with it. And so it's a lot of what you do is on the job type of training. And so I'll give you a good example. My first airport was out in Phoenix at Sky Harbor International Airport. And I got there and I was in the operations department, which is a typical starting point for someone coming out of school. So you go and kind of take care of the airfield. You do perimeter checks, make sure no one's breached your fence, make sure everybody is safe. You make sure that the airlines are doing, kind of in the right area where they're supposed to be, that there's, nothing that could be hazardous on the airfield. You check the lighting, that kind of stuff. And so I had only been at the airport for, 3 months or so. I had my pilot's license already. I had my own plane. I had been working in aviation, but I had never worked at an airport. And my boss came to me and said, well, we need a public information officer and we want you to do it. And I was like, I don't know anything about airports. And they were like, you know everything about airports. You fly, you have a plane, you bet, you know. And so I started in as their public information officer, talking to the media, which was for me terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of where you know, kind of how you.
So you start kind of at the bottom. You like any other job. You start at your foundation,
Sure.
and then you just worked your way up.
Build on it. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it seems like, and again, I mean, that just depends on your situation and what's happening at the airport, but sometimes it's easier to move ahead in the smaller airports because you know, they depend on you for a lot of things. So you get into something that you may have never done before, but there's no one else there that's dedicated to doing it. So you're kind of like, your boss says to you, can you? And you're like, yeah, I can do it. And so you learn on the, you know, on the job, and it's keeps life interesting for sure.
So there's a lot of moving parts at the airport. If anyone has ever been to an airport, you know there's parking, then you know there's rental cars, you know that there are airlines that fly in, you know there's food, beverage. Are those all contractors, or how do they do business with the airport if someone was interested in it?
So it just depends, but I'm always out there encouraging folks, if you're interested in working at the airport, keep your eye on the Augusta Richmond County website.
Okay.
They have what they call ARC bids, and so there's opportunities that come out there. So we have a management team that handles the parking, the public parking for us. I put out an RFP every 5 years for that. Our restaurant, that we've just gotten a new restaurant tour come in, but every 5 years. Now that one, usually it's a 5-year contract and then a 5-year option for renewal, because that's a very cost intensive. So when a restaurant comes in, they redo everything and they bring in all of this equipment, and you know, so we usually do a 5-year contract with a 5-year extension if they, you know, if they're happy and we're happy. But there are also a lot of opportunities for construction work as well. And so one thing that I would encourage anybody that's interested, small businesses that may be interested in doing some small part of a construction contract, is if you see a project that's going to occur, watch the website, make sure you go to those pre-bid meetings. Get involved with the prime contractor, because a lot of the times the prime contractors, they don't do everything. They look for subs to come in and be able to, you know, haul dirt away, or to make deliveries for whatever, or even just to make sure that no one is getting onto their site. So securing the gate where they are and making sure they've got someone staffed there to do that. So there are a lot of other, you know, opportunities to do that. We do have outreach about once a year. We have a program where we invite everyone in to tell them how to operate at the airport through the city. So yes.
And all of that can be found on the
ARC bid on the Augusta Richmond County website. So it's augustaga.gov.
Okay.
And go to the ARC bid.
Yeah. I also saw, because I fly out of there a good bit, there's memorabilia. So I see golf, I see James Brown, I see all of these different things that represent our community. How did that come about, or is, you know, has that just been there for years?
So I started that program, we call it the ART program, and I started that probably 15 years ago. So our airport is, the way that it was designed, there's not a lot of open wall space. So I got with the Augusta Museum of History curator, and she had one of her folks build some cabinetry for us so that we could display artwork. because we didn't really have an area to place it along the walls that would get good exposure. So they did a great job for us. So we hired Nancy Glazer to act as our curator for the airport. It's not certainly full-time, but she has helped us to develop the art program in our airport, and we've expanded that to include musicians and things, which we highlight during both Christmas and the Masters. So we have live music out at the airport, and folks send in their stuff to audition, as do the artists as well. They send us videos or photos of some of the work that they've done, and so we make a selection as to who's going to go in during what quarter. But it's we want to be able to showcase the community. You know, we want to be able to give people a feel for what Augusta-Aiken is all about. So that's why we try to include that kind of stuff.
I didn't even know that. As much as I'm in and out of there, I never knew that.
We had a polo display at one point in time. We had a gentleman who used to be to do a balloons and polo event for the military. So it was always for Fort Gordon, but he used to host it up here in Aiken. And he contracted with a bunch of artists to do kind of like what the horses are around the Aiken. Well, they were polo ponies. And so we had several of the polo ponies out at the airport for, I think, 6-8 months, but kind of showcasing the Aiken community and the horse community. So that was a lot of fun.
Well, I have to make sure that I get out there when they're doing that, because I wasn't aware. Now, you know, I did go on the website, so I think we're really getting down to some of the programs that you offer. So if you could just talk about some of those programs that I thought was interesting, especially the ones for the kids who want to go into aviation.
Yeah. So I think I started the STEM program because of exactly what I had said. My parents were very negative about me getting into it. If your family doesn't fly, you've never been on a plane, you haven't been out to the airport, you really have no idea. And it's not something I think that they really promote in schools or haven't in the past. And so I wanted to be able to make the community and those folks that maybe hadn't had the opportunity to get out there to be able to see what we do have and what opportunities there are for careers. And so we started with the airport tours, which is the very young children, the elementary school, the preschool, the kindergartners, the homeschoolers, and they can call up and ask for a tour of the airport, and so they get out there and they get to see how things operate. Then we had a career day where we kind of targeted the middle school kids because they haven't a lot of times decided what they want in their lives, and so we wanted that exposure. So they come out for a full day of the airport. They go to 4 different stations. So they go to the maintenance and repair and overhaul facility that works on the jet aircraft. We have them going up into the air traffic control tower to see what the controllers do and how they handle the planes that are coming in and out. We have a pilot come out with an aircraft to talk about becoming a pilot, lets them sit in the plane, sometimes see some of what's necessary to go in and out. They come in and look at our aircraft rescue firefighting company because the firefighters out at the airport have a very different task than firefighters in the community itself, because they're not really focused on the buildings, they're focused on the aircraft, which could possibly have a lot of fuel in them, you know, a tight space with a lot of people crowded in there, so it's a very different experience. And now we've also started in with some of the drone technologies as well, so where they can see the operations of the drones and what they might get utilized for and that kind of thing. So at one point in time prior to COVID, we had a shadow program as well for high school students that wanted to come out and get some hands-on experience. So we shared with Daniel Field. So it was Augusta, they'd spend some time at the Augusta Regional Airport and some time at Daniel Field doing different tasks and things. And we have since created an MOU with the Augusta Richmond County School System, so now they have an aviation career pathway in one of their schools. So we're trying to make sure that we expose the students to it, but at the same time, we've got some needs at the airport. I mean, our maintenance, repair, and overhaul facility, Standard Aero, is always looking for mechanics. You know, folks are always looking for pilots. One of my responsibilities is to try and build the businesses on the airfield so that as kids from our communities graduate, they'll have an opportunity to stay in the area as opposed to maybe moving somewhere else in order to work in aviation.
Wow.
So that's one of the focuses that we have right now.
Wow. Man, we've talked about a lot. But the one thing that's sparked my attention was you have a military suite at the airport.
We do. When I got there, this is something that a lot of the larger airports have, but being a military community, I felt like we needed something like that. So I went to the USO and said, hey, can we get a USO here? And they said, no, you're too small. You know, they have a lot of requirements. You have to have a full-time staff member that's in the suite to help out and that kind of thing. And we just didn't have that kind of ability to do that. And so we decided, well, we don't really have to have a USO here. We just want to be able to show the military community that we appreciate them and we're supportive of them. So we built out one of the little suites at our airport, and we put lounge chairs in there. We put in some computers, so if they didn't have to get out their own computer or whatever, there's a big screen TV in there, and we keep a small refrigerator with some drinks and stuff for the military.
Wow, I didn't know that either. And is when military come in, do you tell them that? How do they know it's there?
Well, it's on the first floor and there's signage there. We have a stanchion that's outside there.
Okay.
But certainly, you know, I think a lot of that is word of mouth.
Okay.
But again, it is right on the first floor, right across from the ticket counters and everything. We tried to make it as visible as we possibly could, and we have it listed on our website. So if there's the military is going in there or something and they look at the website ahead of time, they'll see it there as well. So
you heard it here first. If you did not know, you heard it here. What does a day in your shoes look like?
So it could be just about anything. In business development, not only do you try to get new businesses, but you kind of oversee the old businesses and things like that. So, and I also get out into the community to talk about the airport and to encourage folks out there. So I may be talking to the airlines, trying to convince them that, you know, a new route would be a good thing for us, or to track our passengers going through there, to show them, you know, look, here's the number of people we have going there. Or I'm talking to the restaurant folks saying, you know, what is it that you know, we can help you with? Are you experiencing any problems or whatever? With the parking, I'm the liaison for the parking, and you know, pretty much everything. So today when I leave here, we've got Augusta University is coming out to do an install. They wanted to do some advertising so that people going through the terminal would see Augusta University and think, you know, let me check into it. And so they're going to be doing an installation today. So when I leave here, I'll be going to assist with that, you know.
Wow.
So a little bit of everything. I have a meeting this afternoon with a gentleman who is a Japanese firm they're developing some of these small electric vertical takeoff and landing air taxis.
Wow.
And so he's partnered with a company on our airfield, Bravo Air, who does charters and stuff, and has now since signed a letter of intent with them to purchase some of their aircraft when they're out.
Wow.
So we could see air taxi service here in the community before too much longer. I mean, you know, I'm going from our airport over to the hospitals, or going from our airport to Fort Gordon, or going from our airport to the Augusta National, or wherever, you know. So it'll be interesting. You can bypass the ground traffic and just go by air if you're in a hurry.
You heard that here first. You heard it here first. Don't miss another episode. So what haven't you told us today? We've talked about a lot. We've hit everything on here, but what haven't we talked about expansions, what to expect from the airport, any new stuff coming.
So we are in expansion mode right now. We just got 2 new jet bridges, so hopefully before too much longer. I just came back from meeting with several airlines last week, as a matter of fact. So we're always out there doing that. We are in the process of building a new taxiway, which will open up our industrial park. So hopefully at some point in time, we'll get some business on the southeast side to kind of build those job opportunities for our community. But one thing that I would encourage everyone, sometimes I get folks from Aiken that says, well, why should we use your airport? We're South Carolina. Well, we're the metropolitan area. Aiken is in the metropolitan area of Augusta. So it behooves us all to work together to grow our community and to provide those opportunities for folks to stay where we are. I mean, if someone decides, well, I'm going to use the Columbia Airport because that's in South Carolina, well, as the Columbia Airport grows, opportunities at Columbia grow. So businesses go to Columbia. They don't necessarily come to Aiken. And so I always encourage people, if you can, use our airport. It's not always possible. You know, we understand the challenges of getting a family of 4 or 5 onto a plane, you know, and so you're looking for cost-effective opportunities. But I would encourage everybody to check our airport every single time, because as it gets used, we'll get more air service. As we get more air service, more companies will look at us.
Absolutely.
So that's,
well, I definitely appreciate you coming today. I have learned so much, things that I never even thought about. What do you want to leave us with?
well, I just want to say, and this has nothing to do with the airport, but I absolutely love Aiken. When I relocated here, I certainly was looking to, I think, live a little closer to the airport. But I found Aiken and I just fell in love with it. And it is just such a phenomenal little community, and I'm just so impressed with it, and I'm glad I'm a part of it. So
Thank you.
well, thank you for inviting me out to speak about the airport.
Thank
I
you.
could go on for days.
I see it. We will have to have you back and maybe come there and do a little tour of the airport.
Absolutely would love it.
Yeah. But this is Market Talk with Broadwater-Toole Realty. My guest, Diane Johnson, she's Director of Innovation and Business Development at Augusta Regional Airport. Please go to their website. Check out all the information that is there. I learned a lot, had a lot of questions for her, which she was able to hit on that would benefit you. And a lot of things that she said today, you heard it here first. Thank you so much.